Hi, it's Becky, and welcome to Glitter and Glue Sticks. In today's video, we're going to make 3 Christmas trees using mostly all Dollar Tree products. All these Christmas trees cost less than $5 to make, and they look great sitting on their own or in clusters. So, if you enjoy making home decor on a budget, I would love for you to consider subscribing to my channel. Now, without further ado, let's get crafting.
For our first Christmas tree, you're going to need one of the styrofoam cones from Dollar Tree, one of the faux tin sheets, and if you choose to, a candlestick to elevate it a little bit higher up off the ground. You're going to start off by ripping off that adhesive sheet on the faux tin. I really don't even know what the heck they put that on there for. It doesn't stick, it doesn't stay, so just rip it off. Once that adhesive is off your faux tin, then find your center mark on your styrofoam cone and start gluing that tin to it using hot glue. Once you have your first line of hot glue set, then take and roll back your tin, put some glue underneath, and then roll it onto that glue and hold it. Be careful, this tin gets a little hot when it's touching with the hot glue. Continue gluing and rolling your tin sheet until you have the styrofoam cone completely covered. Once I had my tin completely glued on, I started at the top and cut little slits so I could cut off the excess tin. Follow that same process on the bottom part of your cone. I left about 1/4 of an inch overhang to make sure that my styrofoam wouldn't show. Now take the top portion of your cone and lay it down on some of that excess tin that you cut off to cut off your round shape for the top of the cone. Use some hot glue to secure it in place. I then took a nail file and shaved off the excess a little bit just to make it a little bit more smooth. But then I noticed that there was a few gaps from where the tin was raised. So I got out my drywall mud and filled those in before I painted. I then decided to glue my Christmas tree on top of a candlestick to give it a little bit more height. And I took it down to the basement to paint it what I thought was black paint. But afterwards, I found out it was dark walnut, so we had to paint it again. For our second Christmas tree, you're going to need one of the Christmas tree forms that's covered in tinsel that you get from Dollar Tree, along with some chunky yarn. I had this chunky yarn on hand, but they do also have a smaller, not as thick chunky yarn at Dollar Tree. So this tree is super simple to make and it ends up super cute. You just start by at the bottom gluing your chunky yarn on. Initially, I was gluing a lot and then wrapping and then gluing some more and wrapping. But after I got past that bottom, maybe 1 or 2 rows, I just started wrapping it a little bit. I ended up wrapping the chunky yarn around 3 times to give it the thickness that I wanted, and then just periodically tacking it into place with my hot glue. When I got my Christmas tree to the thickness that I wanted, I took and kept winding up until I got to the very top again. And then I left about a 1-inch piece that I took with my scissors and just stabbed that right back into the tree form. And last but not least, for Christmas tree number 3, you're going to need one of the paper mache cones and a sunbonnet from Dollar Tree. Take your sunbonnet and pull the seams apart. If you cut just the strings on the very beginning, it pulls pretty easy. And then you're going to take this, I guess it's cord or ribbon, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, and pull it out, and we're going to take that to use it to wrap around our tree. Find your seam line on your paper mache cone and use that as your starting point. Take your hot glue and glue it around so that the edge of the ribbon hits just the bottom. When you get to that seam line, cut your ribbon and glue it down again. And then we're going to start a second row halfway over where we started the first. So your second row is going to go halfway over your first row. And then you're going to follow that process up, cutting again once you get around to your starting point. This is a pretty straightforward and easy process. The main things are just make sure to keep your seams as straight as possible and make your cut lines as straight as possible. And then just let the glue hold it down. When you get to the very top, you're going to have a little bit of piece of the cord that's hanging over. Just bunch that together with some hot glue. Well, that does it for today's video. Have a great week.